we go. Mark Friesen is my guest. He's the PPC candidate out in Saskatoon. He's a candidate out there. It's the Jim Fannon Show. Welcome aboard. Mark Friesen. Week open, man. Mark Friesen, how are you, my brother? You looking good? Do I have you turned down? Oh, no, hang on. Hang on. I got my controls. Now you're live. How are you, brother? Thanks for taking the time. Are you busy out there?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm up to my elbows in alligators.
Nice. That's a good way to put it. Now, you've done this before. You were a candidate in 2019. The only reason I picked you up, not the only reason, you got a hell of a Twitter following. How'd you build that up?
My mouth, it's shark infested, and people seem to like it.
Wow.
It's way overdue. We got to start telling the truth on things, and I think people like that. So I guess that's how we ended up getting that Twitter following.
Well, respect.
I also
man.
have a podcast too. So
okay, I'm on my third Twitter account, and I ran mine up to $10,000, and it was a lot of fun because I built it. Somehow on the back of MAGA supporters, and they were fun. Yeah. You know, it was a little bit of an echo chamber, but at least I got some participation. Facebook, I mean, right. It's so left wing on Facebook, I can't imagine. Anyways, tell me a little bit about who you are and why politics now. I mean, 2 elections now. I get why the PPC, but why politics, man? Like, of all the things you could do, politics is probably not the most financially beneficial for your career or whatever you're trying to do out there.
Yeah. If you would asked me at any point in my life up to a couple of years ago, I would have absolutely said, no, for sure not. I'm not going to be a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I don't want anything to do with that. I worked for the government for 25 years, beat my head against the wall. And I retired at 44. I started my own business. And I love being out of the government, being in it for so long. So I never thought that I would be actually asking to get back into it. But you know what? It's out of necessity. The times that we're in, what we're going through. Listen, the globalist agenda has us on a path. We're either going to oppose that effectively through politics and peacefully, or it's going to end up very ugly. And so, I'm taking a shot at it, and hopefully we can at least get some opposition in Parliament. We haven't had any for decades. So if we can get some actual opposition in Parliament to stem this globalist agenda and everything they're bringing along with it, great. If not, then we'll prepare in other ways.
Tell me about how are you handling the split the vote, the strategic vote, how much are you able to live inside the possibility that this could be, the PPC could be the X factor, the surprise that the electorate is pissed off. They've never been locked down for a year and a half before. It's almost like Justin Trudeau's running on mandates and vaccination passports. And I think a lot of people are going to jump ship. I've heard a lot of volunteers jumping ship from conservative campaigns to go to the PPC because they're so pissed off with Aaron O'Toole. How much do you think you got a shot out there? How much do you live in the possibility that I could be elected here?
We're in very, very strange times. We're in very critical times. And anything can happen at this point. I mean, it's not almost like Trudeau is running on lockdown. He is. In fact, he made an announcement a couple of days ago saying that you either elect tyranny or you elect freedom. It's up to you. And essentially admitting that, yes, I'm the tyranny candidate. So vote for me if you still want, lockdowns and restrictions and vax passports and you name it. So, yeah, I mean, we've said for a while, a few of us here in the PPC, that we are one news story or one critical incident away from forming government. And I believe that to this very day. And we're seeing it happen. I'm watching it in real time.
Do you think
this
that incident, do you think an incident like something's going to happen during this campaign that does it? I mean, it's happened before.
I think it's already happening with the vax passport.
Because some of the things that Trudeau's
just
saying, just sorry to cut you off, but some of the things that
Yep.
Trudeau's saying, it would be suicide in politics any other time. Like you don't say these things, and I don't. Maybe it's a delayed reaction. We don't get, we'll see it in the polling data, I guess, but you can't trust those. I mean, I see a surge in the PPC, and yeah, some of the stuff that he's going through is literal political suicide. How can you not be punished for that?
Right. Well, I mean, he's committed political suicide for any normal person for most of the time he's been in power. So am I shocked at what's coming out of his mouth? Absolutely not. But I think part of the thing is with these people is they're so arrogant and they have so much hubris that they don't, and out of touch with regular people, that this just makes sense to them. And this is what they think Canadians want to hear. I think there's a large silent majority that do not agree, especially with the vaccine passports. I think that's a big one. We're seeing it happen in BC right now. They just announced it. And I'm getting reports from PPC EDAs and candidates in BC that are saying we're getting conservatives coming over right now as we speak. And this was 3 different EDAs throughout the province. So, it's definitely shaking people up. And I mean, that's it. I think there's a line in the sand, and I think they're crossing it. I believe personally they've crossed it a long time ago, but I'm talking in terms of the masses. Anything can happen.
What's the most important? What are you going at as far as issues go, and are you trying to stay above? I mean, you have to draw attention to the inadequate leadership that we've had, but are you spending more time on your policy and how it could lead to a better future? Or are you spending more time, pointing to the obvious lack of leadership and the ramifications of Trudeau's policy under the coalition of the NDP, right?
Yeah, I'm a big picture kind of guy, and I think I have a pretty good handle on the fact that and this is essentially what I'm saying throughout my campaign. There is a set of values that Canadians across the board, I would say 90%, if not higher, of Canadians share, and those values are freedom, liberty, justice, equality under the law, sovereignty, prosperity, and truth. You ask any Canadian if they believe in those values, they're going to say, yeah, of course. And those are the values that are under attack. Those are the precise values that are under attack and that the globalists need to destroy to achieve their goals. So this is a moment in our history where, regardless of who you supported in the past, regardless of where your affiliations have been, this is about those core values. And we need to protect them and defend them, or they're going to be gone.
Who do you think your voter is? Or do you think you're going to pull from the left and right equally? Do you think you're going to pull from the Liberals as well? Because I see a natural progression of the Conservatives, obviously, over to you, but I'm not sure how much you think you can pull from the left, too. I think there's going to be a lot of pissed off Liberal voters looking
we are pulling from the left. I had a call yesterday from a longtime NDP supporter here in Saskatchewan who has come over to the PPC because he understands the bigger picture, understands about when I discuss these values. And he's 100% on board. And I've had numerous people from the Liberal Party, the Green Party, from the Conservative, obviously, and NDP. So it's coming from all over. We're not, I've had discussions with Max in regards to our messaging being, from the top, basically saying we're the only conservative option. I think we're more than that. We're the Canadian option. We're the option that again represents these values that most Canadians share. Most Canadians have a different outlook on how we achieve the goals of these values, and that's okay. We need to have that debate and those discussions. But we, at the foundation of what we have in this country and what people value, it's those values. And so, if people understand that those values are under attack, and I think they're starting to, you know what? We could change the whole landscape of politics in Canada, and it desperately needs to happen.
Can I convince you to get on the proportional representation bandwagon if it meets the 4, if it falls under the 4th, and like Max is letting people go be pro-life if they want to be, right? Because if it meshes with his 4 foundational beliefs. for the party, because I've spoken to Max about it before, and it, like, of all the parties that should be talking about electoral reform and some sort of form of proportional representation so that Justin Trudeau doesn't get elected with a 35% majority government.
Yeah.
You know, and he said, listen, and I get the argument, we don't want to talk about anything that requires a constitutional change, but at a local level, do you feel like you can I don't know if you're in favor of it or if you've even entertained it. God bless you if you haven't, because I'm obsessed with it. I just can't believe that the majority of votes are completely unrepresented, including the majority of voters last time that were conservative. And Justin Trudeau virtually has a majority government with coalition with the NDP or the Bloc over here. You know, I don't think he used the Conservatives, but he had whatever he wanted. He just, you know, pander and get it. What's your take on PR?
Yeah, you know what? I'm all for it. I'm a proponent of constitutional reform, and we've had myself and Salim Mansour, who was also in favor of constitutional reform and electoral reform. We've had these discussions with Max. I know that is his answer and his position at this time. Of course, within the party, there's a lot of discussions and lobbying that happens. And I get it. Maybe this election isn't the time to bring this forward, given all the other serious issues that we're facing. But it is something that, as a party, we're going to have to, look at very seriously after this election, and because I think it's incredibly important.
Yeah, well, and it's important to me because I've witnessed too many elections where key issues were tossed out that you could distinguish yourself from all other parties. Well, the NDP and the Greens are talking about PR, so you're not the only one. But you're going to have a loud voice this time around, and I think that if you take something like that, and I talked to him about ammonia fuel too. I mean, ammonia is a very viable product for a very clean burning fuel, and out there, right. I mean, maybe you don't want to talk about it out there, but we have a lot of the infrastructure because farmers are set up for it and stuff like that. Like, it's not out of the realm that we could burn something that has a water vapor as exhaust that you can make, like, you know, it's, and he says, you know, we're not picking winners and losers. I get that too. But when, you know, an initial electoral reform, what do you got to lose? I mean, it was like Jack Layton back in the day. We said, hey, are you going to support the Greens being on the debate? We knew that Jack Layton saying yes to the Greens being on the debate wouldn't change the debate. So he had really nothing to lose by seizing the opportunity and the issue and saying, yeah, we're Democratic, the Greens should be here. But he didn't. He made a backroom deal to keep them out. So I think that this is an example, and you're going to see them come up in the campaign, you know, where, like, what we already knew this was happening, was getting excluded from the debate, right? So the PPC should have been prepared to go to war, and they did. They had a mailer ready and stuff like that. But it's also an opportunity for, you know, if somebody wants to make themselves look good and they're the Conservatives, they're like, you know what? I'm a Democrat. That guy should be on the stage with us. He's got good ideals. I don't agree with them, but he should be here. You know what I mean? So what's your take on 100%. On that whole?
Yeah, I mean,
maybe I didn't ask a question there.
Ultimately, obviously we should be in the debate. There's no question we should be in the debate. You know, when they look at the debate criteria, the one that they're resting on is that our support in the polls wasn't where it needed to be. But when you look at when they aggregate the polls, and they're pulling in polls where there were some they didn't even poll the PPC, and they're using that to get to their aggregate number. You know what? 2 days after they made the announcement, we were polling at 7%. In Alberta, we're polling at 16%. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty weak argument. I think, you know, headquarters is probably appealing. I'm waiting to hear, you know, if there's any result of that. But yeah, I mean, obviously we should be in the debate. We represent a good portion of Canadians, and I think a lot of Canadians that aren't polled.
How have you been invited to any debates? How's it going locally? Do you find that you're going to have to fight your way onto the debates locally, or do you think you get invited? What are they doing, like Zoom calls?
I actually don't know. I haven't heard anything from anybody that's hosting a debate. In fact, a really weird thing is I have all my signs up, my lawn signs, and no other party does. And so it's very quiet in terms of that sort of thing. I talked to another candidate in the Prince Albert riding, and he's already been invited to 3 debates. I'm hearing crickets. So I don't know if it's because they're not inviting us or if they just haven't got their ducks in a row because it was a snap election. I don't know.
They're not doing physical
time will
debates.
tell.
Are they doing Zoom debates?
Well, I think they're still planning some physical debates. We have no restrictions here in Saskatchewan, so I think it's wide open as far as that goes. Now, they're starting to move towards, the government isn't mandating vax passports to enter into, restaurants and bars and football stadiums, but there's a lot of talk from a lot of different organizations and corporations that they're going to do it on their own. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. But
dude, can you believe this? We're here. Like, what surprised you most over the last couple of years? Division has been so obvious, but can you believe we're actually watching this stuff go down in Canada? What surprised you most?
Jim, I've been deep into this globalist agenda for about 18 years, studying, researching, spreading information. So I get a little consumed by what's happening because it's all in relation to that. Every so often, I'll take a step back in my mind and have to remind myself, wow, this is where we're at. They're actually doing it. They're actually moving forward at light speed and using COVID, of course, to do it. So, yeah, sometimes if I stop and think, it's a little overwhelming, but is it a surprise? No, I just didn't know the mechanism in which they were going to force this transformation that they talk about. So I can't say that it's surprising, but it can definitely be overwhelming.
What's this run look like compared to last time? Have you got some more money? Like, are you running a big campaign?
Yeah,
you got volunteers? You got a campaign
totally
office?
Different.
Yeah? Okay, tell me about it.
Completely different. Last year in 2019, it was my first foray into politics, and nobody knew who the PPC was. This time around, a lot more people know who we are. I've seen exponentially more support, both in volunteers and in donations. It's been 5 days since the election was called, or 6 or whatever it is, and I've already tripled my amount in donations from my whole campaign in 2019.
Good for you.
We're seeing a huge difference this time around.
What else is different? How about the issues? How about the positioning of the candidates on the issues?
For me, it hasn't changed, because even in 2019, before COVID, I was running on, an anti-globalist Canada First sort of platform. And that's why I joined the PPC. I was politically homeless for most of my adult life on a federal level. I was a Reform Party member from inception, and then of course they broke my heart when they merged with the Red Tories, and since that time I've been politically homeless. So once the PPC was created, and I checked out Max, and I checked out what basically their platform was, and the values that they brought to the party, I sat there and I'd be insane knowing what I know and doing what I've done in terms of research of the globalist agenda. I'd be crazy not to join the PPC. So, I joined the PPC, and that's what I ran on the first time around, and that's exactly what I'm running on now, except now it's a lot easier to connect the dots for people to understand the bigger picture. And in fact, we have to do that. We have to create context to COVID and why is it that we're shutting down businesses? Why are we destroying lives and livelihoods for a illness that has a 99.96 survivability and a 99.7% recoverability? It's insanity. But here we are, and we're still doing it, and we're still locking people down, and now we're making them do Vax Pass, which is really just a gateway to social credit. Behave yourself, or you're not going to be allowed to do certain things. That's where this whole move is. So people need to understand that context. And what better way to educate and inform people than with a political platform? And that's what the PPC's allowed me to do. And that's why, since the first election to this one, we've moved a lot more into this anti-globalist Canada First realm, because even within the PPC, people have learned that that's what this is all about. All roads lead back to the UN agenda, all of it, everything. So that's my platform again, and it'll be till we can turn it around.
Without giving away house secrets, what's your feeling on the team that Max has put around him personally? Because Justin Trudeau is not the smartest tool in the shed, but he was very, very crafty at putting good people around himself that knew how to get him elected. I've had my interactions with the PPC. I like Max a lot. But how do you rate his team and who he's put around him as far as advice? How much you got a huge following, and this is what a lot of people don't realize. If the wave it takes part in Saskatchewan and Alberta. Like, it doesn't happen in Ontario as much as it does, or out west as it does right there in that conservative hotbed. So, how much input have you got going, hey, maybe we should, what do you think of this?
Yeah, and you know what, Max is actually, I've obviously developed a relationship with Max over the last couple of years, and there's lots of times when we've had discussions, and I may have had to do it over 3 or 4 or 5 different times, but he listens and he moves, and you can see that he moves, if he's convinced, and if you can put forward a solid argument to whatever the position is, he's going to listen. And especially with somebody like myself who has a following, and I got a little bit of influence because of that following, he's going to look at it, he's going to listen. And so I've been very, very impressed. It's not like I had, read political parties in the past. This is much different. Now, that's not to say that he's open to hear everybody, because he obviously doesn't have the time or the inclination. But if you can manage to wiggle in and be persistent and make a solid argument for whatever position you're carrying, he's going to listen, and he's going to move in the proper direction. So yep. I've had no problem. Growing pains within every new party. People come and go, and it is what it is. But I think we got a pretty solid team in there, and I mean, let's face it, a lot of the influencers, a lot of people that are politically intelligent, they're going to come to a party who they think is going to win. So the pool isn't that deep to pull from when you're a new party. So you're going to go through growing pains. You're going to go through this, but I think we got a pretty solid team there now, and
yeah.
It's going to be very interesting this next 20 days.
Yeah, I've been reminding people. I think that it's important that the local candidate's probably never done this before. And they're not a polished politician that has all the answers. And that's exactly why you should vote for them. But on the other hand, politically, it's a turnoff if they're nervous or they don't speak well or they don't present well at the door or whatever. But I try to remind people, man, this is Max's party. These are representatives of Max Bernier. You're voting for the PPC. The quality or the experience of the local candidate can't be the make or break it when you're voting for these type of policies. And I love that about Max, that he's not swayed by the wind in public perception or polls or stuff like that. I'm glad to hear. And he seems like a reasonable guy that if you dripped on him long enough, you'd go, okay, maybe we'll give it a shot type of thing. Because, hey, I mean, I think you guys you're going to ride a little bit of a wave. This election's going to cause, you're going to triple what you did last time easily. And that in itself is a huge win. But then you never know, man. There's ridings out there where you got a big conservative base that's just going to defect, and a really unhappy liberal voter for the most part, I guess. But anyway, the argument against.
Yeah, no, I think we got a really good opportunity this time around, and it goes down to really basic values, and that's what we represent. So. It's like I said, it's going to be a very interesting 20 days. Stay tuned, because every time I look at the poll in Alberta, it changes in our favor. Like I said, we're at 16. We're probably at 17% now in Alberta. So if we keep that pace up, by the time the election comes around, we may, and for me, we have to look at things realistically too. I mean, that's not to say that chances couldn't be and information couldn't come out that's going to turn this whole thing upside down and the PPC is going to form government. They can never say that won't happen. But I think realistically, for me, I would be satisfied, we'll call it, if we had 12 candidates, or 12 candidates that won, and we had 12 members of parliament, and then we could really be that solid opposition
Mm-hmm.
and throw a wrench into a lot of plans with those kind of numbers. So, for me, that's the satisfactory goal. But who knows? A lot can happen between now and the election.
Yeah, definitely. As candidate, I was always trying to make national news. Outside of Max, who do you we got Viva Frey out of Montreal. He's got a decent platform. I like him. You got Mark Emery in London. Other than that, you're in Saskatoon-Grass. What?
Grasswood.
Grasswood? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, Saskatoon-Grass-Wood. Yep.
Okay, there wasn't enough characters on your Twitter, or did I read it wrong? Damn it, I got it wrong, man.
Probably not enough characters there.
Okay. There's some high-profile candidates. I kind of, I don't know. As the local guy, my ambition was to make national news as the local candidate.
Right.
That's not from a DUI standpoint. You know what I mean? Like good national news, like political national news. But I'm not sure that maybe they want to upset Max's spotlight. I don't know. Who do you predict to get any news at all outside of their own riding in your party? Because you need.
You mentioned Viva. David Freiheit, or I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but and you got Chelsea Hillier, who's fairly recognizable through her dad Randy, and we got some, and Nick Pereira. There's some names. We lost Laura Lynn. She didn't get her paperwork finished, so that was unfortunate that we lost Laura Lynn. But I think we're going to make that national headline not based on personalities. I think we're going to make those headlines based on position and based on especially in terms of our vax pass and mandatory nonsense. That's going to get headlines at some point, and so it'll be based on our beliefs and our positions rather than on individuals.
This might be one of the easiest elections from that way to wedge, because the PPC has so many positions that are diametrically opposed to all the rest of the parties, right? Like, I mean, it's the Uniparty, whoever came up with that brilliant idea, I think it was the PPC. I mean, I think I saw Max tweet it. I copied it and stole it. It's unbelievable because it's so true. You're going to have all these opportunities to carve that niche and the wedge in between all these issues and the other parties where, this might be, and it should be predictable because the issues are so clear, right? Me
and a number of other candidates since last election leading up to this one, we're like caged animals. We can't wait for the debate because it's so easy to distinguish us from them, and they're all the same. So I can't wait for the debates and make them all look exactly the same and really show how it is that we are so different and different in a way that I think most Canadians, if they actually had the time to think about it, would support us based on our principles. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I am too, man. So, and you don't have to drag anyone through the mud. The ineffective leadership and the squandering of all the opportunities has been so deadly obvious. I think you are able to just say, hey, here's what a government under the PPC would look like. A moratorium on immigration. Dude, and I don't think he has to fight the racism, white supremacy. He doesn't have a Warren Kinsella out there this time. They
burnt that out.
Oh yeah, it's old news. Like that's so tired and old. So this is. I'm excited for your opportunity, and I'm excited. And Max, I think, has done a fair job at balancing. Pointing at the problem, but spending as much time or more in a possibility of this is what a government under the PPC would look like, right? And he's been realistic about saying, I know we're not going to form the government this time around, but maybe next. And you know what? You what do you got to get? 10, 15%? You'll elect 5 or 10 candidates. That's not out of the realm of possibility when you're already polling at 7. So I know I'm, blowing smoke up your ass a little bit because I'm a huge fan of the party, but, I think this is a hopeful time for the Purple Party. And
it is, very much so.
Yeah. Anyways,
I'm excited.
I appreciate your time.
I'm excited for our country because for me, it's not about party. I mean, we are the conduit, but it's for my country. This is the only reason I do what I'm doing, is because I love my country. I love what it represents, and I want to save it. And so I'll use the party to do that.
Wow, man. I'm just going to let you close on that. That was a perfect close. How can people get a hold of you? Is Twitter the only social media you're using, or where else can they donate or help out?
I'm on Facebook as well,
of
course.
Okay.
Mark Friesen or Mark Friesen PPC.
Okay.
I also have my other organization called the Forum for Canadian Sovereignty, so there's a page and a group for that on Facebook. I'm on Rumble. I'm on Odyssey under the Grizzly Patriot. I have my own website for the campaign, markfriesen.ca. I'm everywhere.
Social media monster. All right, man. Go make some trouble, make some news. Not for Max, but for yourself, and I hope to see you soon, man. I can't wait for you to get a few debates under your belt, but hopefully you can continue to draw attention to yourself and the party and break through out there and wherever the fuck you are, I don't know.
Saskatoon.
I appreciate your
Thanks,
time
brother.
And your candor. I'm going to cut you
and
loose.
I apologize for being late.
I was going to mention it. I cursed you. I cursed you privately. I wasn't going to mention it here, but I really I appreciate you taking responsibility for that publicly. It makes me feel a lot better about myself, because I'm like, oh fuck it. I guess I was, you know how it goes. You get pissed off. All these,
I do.
You got 100 responses. I'll do this. I'll do this. I was talking to my local candidate, venting a little bit. And so I'm like, oh shit! Now he's coming on 9:40. I'm like, fuck! Oh no, I did. I was gonna swear on this. Yeah, I said that.
My
and
apologies.
she says, you're not gonna take his call. I'm like, oh, I am a big man today. So, thank you for owning up to that. You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
I love you,
All good,
and I
brother.
appreciate your time. Good luck out there, and hopefully we'll talk again. And hey, I want maybe not the first interview. I want to be first in line if you're elected MP. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll talk soon, bro.
Okay, man.
All right.
See you later.
I think I know how to click this off. Mark Friesen, if you need him. That's it. He's out, and he was late. 40 minutes late. That hurts. That hurts me. But I got a chance to work through my pain and see on the other side a little bit of hope and opportunity and light and forgiveness and grace. And that was Mark Friesen. And that interview did not suck. It's the first candidate I've spoken to this election. There's going to be more. Chelsea Hillier is coming up this week. I'm going to have her, I don't know when. I was texting her tonight, and then Randy's feed came across, and I noticed that she was about to go live. So I'm like, yeah, you're about to go live, and I'm texting you. But I just thought I'd say, when are we doing this? Chelsea Hillier is the daughter of Randy Hillier. Randy Hillier was the No More Lockdowns. He kind of, he started that coalition, or what was it, with Max Bernier and him, and anyway, the late thing. You know what, Nancy? Thanks for listening or watching. No, with me, it's not politicians are late. No, dude, don't, because it just creates too much rage in me. But I am a forgiving human being. Sometimes I work hard at it because hate runs deep. So there's Mark Friesen. Touch him up on Facebook. Touch him up on the PPC. Touch him up on Rumble. Apparently, one of the commenters said he does all his broadcasts from his truck. What the fuck? Come on, Mark. Up your game, dude. Get a desk. I don't care if you broadcast from your truck. Just broadcast. That's the PPC if you need them. Mark Friesen. Saskatoon-Grass. Oh, yeah, it says grass. Saskatoon-Grass. Well, he straightened me out on that. All right. Peace, love, hug your neighbor, and for whatever you do, take that filthy diaper off your face. It's not doing anything, especially for your looks. And vote PPC. I am out.